Okay, it's now December 2014 and I've returned to Cumbria for a fourth time. I'm now in Kendal. Now what I've done, I've contacted all of the witnesses, so I've got about 20 contacts that I haven't managed to make contact with. So these are the last witnesses that I've yet to try.
Location 9, Thornhill, 10:58 AM. 0 dead, 0 injured, 5 witnesses. We now come on to one of the most puzzling parts of the events. I have spoken at length with 2 of the witnesses of the Thornhill incident. I have had a short statement from a 3rd witness, and I have also spoken to the mother of Ashley Glaister, the teenage girl who had the gun fired at her. None of these witnesses, other than Ashley Glaister, have been quoted in the media to my knowledge. I will explain the official version first with the help of a police document which describes the alleged route of the gunman. According to them, Bird drove out of Egremont on the main A595, turning south and heading towards Thornhill, where he left the main road and drove into Thornhill Estate, where he shot at Ashley Glaister on Thorney Road. From Thornhill, Bird turned right onto the A595 and then immediately left and began driving along partly surfaced, single-track country lanes past the village of Carlton. There is a huge question mark over this. Here is witness David Dalton, who was driving along the same road as the gunman and was overtaken just before the Thornhill turn-off.
I pulled on round the roundabout onto the A595, heading south towards Seascale. I hadn't long cleared the roundabout, maybe 50 yards, 75 yards. And I looked in my mirror and there was a car coming off the roundabout, and he was in like the second lane, like the overtaking lane, and he seemed as though he was in a bit of a hurry. And I seen it was like a grey coloured car, and as he come past me, I noticed that it looked as though the side quarter window was out. As the car passed, it was going at speed, and I thought to myself, it looked like a grey colour Citroen Picasso, and it had the plate on the back, the taxi plate. As he'd overtook me, he'd cut a couple of cars up, and I said the car's braking, and I seen what I thought was a Picasso breaking up. I put my foot down, and I thought, what a clown.
Were these cars in front of you?
These cars were in front of me, and I thought, what a clown. You know, he's in that much of an hurry. And obviously was making the cars break up as he come in where the parkhead is.
Because it goes from dual carriage to single carriage.
Single carriage. So where the chevrons were, he went over the chevrons, cut the cars up and got in. By this time, I was maybe 50 yards behind them. I got towards Thornhill, and the traffic was still coming towards Egremont. There was no car turning into Thornhill, and there's no way a car could have turned into Thornhill with the flow of traffic. And obviously I didn't see the car turn off anywhere. So when I got back to work, obviously there was all sorts of rumours going around, the been shootings, and my ex-girlfriend phoned me up and she says, Dave, you know, there's somebody going around shooting and one thing and another around Whitehaven. And this is when I got to know about it. And one of the lads says to me later on in the day, "Hey, do you know this morning when you said about this car overtaking you and the window being like the side, like, well, quarter window being out?" He says, that could have been the car involved in these shootings. And I says, well, I don't know. He says, you better phone the police. Well, as the day went on, it got filtered out that it was Derrick Bird. I says, bloody hell, I know Derrick. And then things started falling into place. The car, taxi, and then obviously, you know, things like started falling into place. So I phoned the police up. I explained to the police what had happened, and the police says, oh, thank you very much for the information, but we've had numerous calls and we don't think that you'll be needed. And I says, well, to be honest, I said, I don't think the car, I said, there's rumours that the car turned into Thornhill, there was a shooting at Thornhill. This had been come out later on. I said, I don't think the car did pull into Thornhill. I said, I think the car pulled onto the Mission Road, pulled off to the left and went on the track. I said, because the flow of traffic, nobody would have been able to turn off into Thornhill. And they said, oh, thank you very much, if we need you, we'll get back to you.
Now the other two witnesses I've spoken to, who were independent, are both listed in the inquest papers. They both saw what happened at Thornhill and both saw Ashley Glaister get fired at. One of these witnesses was about 15 yards from the vehicle and the other maybe 3 or 4 yards from the vehicle when shots were fired. Here is a statement I took from one of these witnesses. My attention was drawn to a vehicle which was driven at high speed into the street. I observed the vehicle being looped around in a 180-degree U-turn. After the U-turn, the vehicle parked against the curb facing the opposite direction it had arrived. I then looked away from the vehicle. Shortly after this, I heard a loud bang, what I thought was a car backfiring, followed by a second bang, which may have been an echo or probably a second shot. I then looked back at the car and saw Ashley with her hands to her head, protecting herself, and she ran off in a panic. The vehicle remained momentarily, then drove off at speed, at which point I lost sight of the vehicle. I then witnessed a bus braking heavily to avoid hitting the vehicle on the junction. I can state categorically the vehicle was maroon or red wine in colour. It had black and yellow taxi markings along the side and a taxi plate on the back. I asked this witness about the windows of the vehicle and they claimed that they were all intact. The other witness to this event, who was also very close, approximately 3 or 4 yards from the vehicle, also told me the vehicle was maroon coloured.
Right, I've just spoken to Darren Power, who was a witness at Thornhill. His house is where the gunman pulled up right outside it, and I said to him, I sent you a DVD, will you speak to me? He says, no, I don't really want to speak about it. He said, it's all been documented. And I said, well, could you give me the colour of the vehicle? And he said, it was a maroony colour. That was his word, maroony colour. And the vehicle was probably 12 feet from where he was, from the door of his house. Now, he seemed confused because he said, well, it's all documented, you know, we know who done it and all the rest of it. And I said, well, we don't really, because we've got conflicting accounts. So I pushed him on it and I asked him to describe the gunman, and it sounded to me like he was just going by what he's seen in the media rather than what he's seen with his eyes. He said late 40s, but he didn't say that he got a clear look at the gunman. Right? It was the vehicle in particular. He said it was a maroony colour. So that's two witnesses we've got saying the vehicle was maroon.
So we have David Dalton saying he thought the silver Picasso did not turn into Thornhill, and we have two independent witnesses at Thornhill saying the vehicle that shot at Ashley Glaister was maroon coloured. One of these witnesses claims they know of another witness who was on the Thornhill bus and also claims the vehicle was maroon.
And I got a phone call. Mr. Dalton, we think the information that you spoke about could be relevant.
Right.
Is there any chance that we could come and interview you? I said, yeah, no problem. So a lady come out and interviewed me, and she says, so what do you think happened after you seen this car? I said, well, I don't think for 1 minute that the car turned off into Thornhill. I said, I think it's turned off left and it's got onto the dirt track going up towards Carlton.
Let's hear now from Ashley Glaister.
I was coming down from the shop and he was coming like across this way to go up the corner when I was coming down, and then that's when he put up beside me and he said something, so that's when I went over to the car and he said, do you like something? And I said, turned around and said what to him, and then that was when he was pointing the gun at me, and then ducked down, and then that's when he shot and I felt it go past my hair, and then I ran down to my sister's crying and he shot again while I was running down to my sister's.
Frustratingly, she doesn't say what colour the car was, nor whether it had a broken window, and doesn't describe what the gunman looked like. I tried to speak to Ashley Glaister and went to her house.
Right, I'm outside the house of Ashley Glaister. She's the young girl that was shot at in Thornhill. Now, so this is an important witness and obviously almost a victim, so I'm going to be sensitive here. And yeah. Important thing is what colour was the car and what was the age of the gunman and what the gunman looked like, if I can get that. Okay, so I've just spoke to Ashley Glaister's mother. She says that Ashley's got a very good memory and she will know the colour of the vehicle and whether the windscreen was out. She seemed to think the windscreen wasn't out.
I went back to the house the following day, but her mother told me Ashley did not want to talk to me. But there is yet another twist to this part of the story. In March 2011, during the inquest, Mail Online published 2 still CCTV images, allegedly taken by the bus CCTV camera at Thornhill. Seemingly the same bus that our witness saw braking heavily to avoid the gunman's vehicle. The images show a vehicle entering and then leaving the street where Ashley Glaister was fired at. According to the timestamp, they were taken just 43 seconds apart. The images clearly show a greyish Citroen Picasso. I showed these images to one of the witnesses who made the statements about the car being maroon, and they said this was impossible, and definitely not the car that shot at Ashley Glaister. The events at Thornhill occurred just before 11 AM, but the CCTV images from the bus show 11:35 AM, which is over half an hour later. The time the vehicle was in the street also seems very quick, just 43 seconds to get into the street, do a U-turn, park up, call over Ashley Glaister, fire 2 bullets and then drive away. I decided to drive the route to see how long it would take.
So he's come down here, hopefully this time without the bin wagon. He's come down here, he's picked up now, he's driven down here, past the shop, and then he's swung round at this junction. He's done a full U-turn, witnessed by our witness, and he's come round, and then he's pulled up by this house here, up here. He's then wound his window down as a girl's coming out the shop, so she's coming down, walk, 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 and then she's appeared here. He's wound the window down, he said something to her, then bang, bang. Let's drive off almost straight away. So he's driven straight up here, and the bus is supposedly still there at that bus stop there, and he's flew out of this junction and been picked up again.
I think it is possible the images from the bus do not show the vehicle that shot at Ashley Glaister. If somebody was fabricating evidence, they had plenty of time to produce these CCTV images by the time the inquest took place. I have been told by one of the Thornhill witnesses that some of the investigating officers of the Thornhill event knew about a second vehicle being involved. Location 10, Carlton, 11:01 AM. 1 dead, 0 injured, 0 witnesses. Not much to say about this one. The victim's body was not even discovered until about half an hour after he was killed. Location 11, Wilton, 11:05 AM. 1 dead, 0 injured, 1 witness. The only witness to this killing did not see the gunman. The Westmoreland Gazette stated the witness, Mrs. Deborah Carey, saw the taxi pull away from her house and heard a bang when Mrs. Jackson was shot, but thought it was the sound of a car door and did not notice her body. Location 12, Wilton, 11:06 AM. 1 dead, 1 injured, 2 witnesses. The Daily Mirror reported Christine Hunter Hall was blasted in the back by the maniac seconds after he murdered her neighbour Jimmy Jackson, 68. As she crashed to the ground and felt blood rise to her throat, she whispered to husband Stephen, "I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die." Christine amazingly survived the random attack but has 100 pellets still lodged in her lung. Her terrifying experience was revealed yesterday at the inquests into the crazed cabbie's 12 victims. Speaking for the first time about her ordeal, Christine said, "The taxi slowed down and I saw he had a gun. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I just thought it was a joke. He pointed his gun at Jimmy and saw the startled look on Jimmy's face and just shot him. It was then I realized it was real. I just froze. I couldn't run or move. Steve started shouting, 'Get out of the way.' I turned and that's when he shot me. Blood was pouring out of my mouth. I remember flying to the ground from the impact. I didn't just fall, I couldn't breathe because of all the blood. I didn't realize I had punctured my lung, that was why." So, no descriptions of the gunman here. Location 13, A595 Red Admiral, 11:21 AM. 1 dead, 0 injured, 5 witnesses.
Right, I've just spoken to Timothy Miles and his wife, and they were on the A595, I think around about the time he shot Gary Purdom. They didn't see any shooting and they didn't see the gunman. They said that they looked in their rearview mirror and they thought that the man was older than in his 20s. They said, yeah, they thought it might have been Derrick Bird, but they couldn't confirm that they definitely saw his face or anything like that. But they felt that it was probably a slightly older man. And they did say that they did not think that there was a taxi sign on top of the car, but they did see the taxi plate on the back of the car.
The Westmoreland Gazette reported Daniel Harper spotted Bird standing in a firing position, holding a rifle with a scope on it, with the stock against his shoulder, taking aim at Mr. Purdom. When I looked, he was dropping down, Mr. Harper said. I could see someone in a boiler suit lying on the ground in the field. Bird blasted his victim a second time with the shotgun before running back to his taxi as Mr. Harper pulled his wagon over. I shouted, "What's going on? What's he done to you?" He just looked at us, jumped in the car and drove off. Michael Farron was working at the roadside unblocking drains when he came face to face with Bird as he drove slowly from the scene. I looked straight at him. I was only a foot away. I recognised him as a taxi driver from Whitehaven. We looked straight at each other. He looked straight through me. He did not look angry or agitated, just completely normal. Again, could these descriptions, "he looked straight through me," be suggesting mind control? Another witness, Andrew Barnes, commented the taxi driver was so calm. Location 14, C-scale approach, 11:25 a.m. 1 dead, 0 injured, 0 witnesses. On this occasion, the gunman is alleged to have fired at the victim while he was driving the car, causing him to crash, but there are no witnesses who saw the gunman's face. Location 15, South Parade C-scale, 11:29 a.m. 0 dead, 1 injured, 10 witnesses. Harry Berger was shot while attempting to drive under this bridge. He told the Times newspaper, "I could see it was a taxi and wasn't going to stop, so I reversed out of the tunnel, and as I did, I could see a shotgun sticking up by the side of his seat, leaning against the seatbelt. Then he started fiddling with the gun and I thought, he's going to use it. I had started to put the window down to say, 'Don't threaten me with that shotgun,' when he fired. The first shot went through my wing mirror and exploded in my right hand, taking off my 2 fingers. I shouted, 'You've shot me, you bastard,' and he let rip again. He was right alongside me. He was puce in colour, anxious, nervous, sweating profusely." This description of the gunman is in stark contrast to previous witnesses, who described him as calm and staring. Although there were numerous witnesses at this shooting location, only one that I have identified other than the victim saw the gunman's face. Charles Whiteman, who was in a car behind Harry Berger, spoke to me on the phone. He said that when the first photograph of Derrick Bird came on the news, he didn't recognise him. But later, when a second image was put out, he thought it did look like the man he saw. Charles Whiteman also stated that the windscreen was fully intact. Another thing that Whiteman pointed out in his telephone interview is the fact that the gunman shot Harry Berger left-handed, but he believed Bird was right-handed. Immediately after this shooting, the gunman's car is caught on this CCTV camera. We know the passenger side quarter panel window was broken in Whitehaven. If this clip showed an intact quarter panel, it would prove more than one vehicle was involved. It's very frustrating. Location 16, Drigg Road North, C-scale, 11:30 a.m. 1 dead, 0 injured, 6 witnesses. One of the witnesses was Gillian Coulshaw, who I mentioned earlier. Let's just listen to what she said again.
That was on the news.
Right.
The picture of the man, it looked nothing like what I thought that I'd seen. It was a Citroen Picasso, and then I heard 2 noises. I didn't even know there was shotgun at the time. It was just 2 really loud bangs. Then it seemed like 30 seconds a minute, stirring at us. The person that I thought that I'd saw was probably late 20s and black spiky hair.
What was the length of the hair?
Probably 1.5 inches spiked up.
Well, she seems very, very sure, and she seems very, very confused that what she remembers doesn't seem to add up with what the mainstream story is. From a lot of the witness statements that I've heard, what it seems to be is that the human brain tends to like to fill in the gaps. You don't like to have any sort of finished threads and such like that. So if they've seen something and they're not made quite sense of it, there is a distinct possibility that what can happen is that later, when you see the image of Derrick Bird, then you appropriate that backwards and go, okay, yeah, no, that is.
Her 10-year-old son also witnessed the Michael Pike shooting and was interviewed by the Daily Telegraph. Unfortunately, he was not asked to describe the gunman.
I've just knocked on the door of another witness, Sandra Shand, who was a witness at Seascale according to the official papers, but she claims she didn't see anything at all. She denied all knowledge of it. She was asking who I was, but she's not seen anything, and I think the body of Michael Pike was lying outside her house.
The other witnesses at this location, who included John Reed and Sandra Shand, did not see the gunman. Location 17, Drigg Road South, Seascale, 11:32 a.m. 1 dead, 0 injured, 4 witnesses. I spoke to witnesses Stephen Martin and James Young. Neither of them saw the gunman. They both heard gunshots from their respective houses. Stephen Martin came out to attend the victim and saw the car driving away. James Young saw the car driving away from an upstairs window. He also stated that there was no taxi sign on the roof. The other 2 witnesses at this location also did not see the gunman.
He's killed Michael Pike as he's been driving along the seafront, and then on his way out of Seascale he's killed Jane Robinson, an elderly woman. Now Jane Robinson was the last person who died, and I'm fairly sure now that there was no witness to the gunman of that event. So has the operative stepped in at this point? Did Derrick Bird get shot by some operative who then jumped in and killed the last 2 victims?
Location 18, Old Shore Road, Seascale, 11:36 a.m. 0 dead, 1 injured, 1 witness. I spoke to witness Barbara Cook, who did not see the gunman. I also attempted to contact the victim, Jacqueline Lewis.
I'm now in Drigg, and I'm trying to locate one of the victims called Jackie Lewis, a female pensioner. In trying to find her property, we asked a postman, and the postman straight away said to us, "Are you journalists?" And I said no, and he said, "Well, don't go to her house," because we gave the name. He asked for what, he said, "Well, what name do you want?" He said, "Don't go to the house," and then he said, "There's a media block on her." All right, so, and then we drove off, and he repeated again, "Don't go to her house." So it seems that the enforcers are employing postmen to prevent people from speaking to some of these witnesses. Now, I'd be interested to know why there's a media block on this woman. This woman was shot, and survived with head injuries. So we're just on the road near where she lives now. We haven't found the house, so just going to drive a bit further up here and see if we can locate her.
Fine. Let's speak to Jackie if that's possible.
Police are coming for you. I've had the postman already. I don't know what you want, but I suggest you move it before the police come for you.
Okay. It's no problem if she doesn't want to speak to us. We just.
Why would she? Did she ask you to come?
No, we
Did
just.
she ask you to come?
Well, we'll go. It's no problem. We'll go. She wants us to go, so we'll go. What you don't know the car.
Right, so the police, we've just pulled in here, and the police have, that's the police car there. So they either haven't seen us or they've just driven off. I mean, we haven't done anything wrong. All we've done is gone to a house and asked if we can speak to someone, and they said no, so we drove away.
Location 19, King George Pub, 11:46 a.m. 0 dead, 1 injured, 3 witnesses. The Eskdale witnesses have been less easy to track down and also less accommodating.
Right, it's like drawing teeth trying to get a statement out of people who witnessed things after Seascale. It really has. One guy who I was told was a really nice fella. I've just tried to ring him up, and his missus has said under no circumstances does he want to speak to you. It's really strange. It's as if they've been spoken to, I would suggest. Now, right, I've just knocked on Ronald Fazaklia's door and spoke to his wife. He wasn't in, he was the witness, and she said that he didn't think he would want to talk about it, and I explained the anomalies and the fact that there's been witnesses report a different man and this kind of thing, but she said, oh, it was the man. And I said, did you see the gunman? And she said, no. So she thinks she knows who it is, and she hasn't even seen the gunman. So I was very polite to her, and I've said to her, look, all I'm after is a description of the vehicle and possibly a description of the gunman. That's it. I'm not after any gory details or anything like that. And then she said, oh, well, yeah, he did come past here because the police told us. So I said to her, well, the police tell lies. If you didn't see it, then how do you know it happened? And this is the problem with this case, is people are citing what they've read or seen on TV. It's really difficult when you're trying to get witnesses to speak to you, especially when it's such a sensitive subject, because if they say no, you cannot then come back at them and say, well, why are you saying no? You can't get into an argument with them, because that is kind of harassment. So as soon as they say no, that's it. The door's closed. Like, now, some of the witnesses are not home, and in order to save me traipsing around their properties again and again, because it is quite a widespread area, I'm going to telephone them, because I have got the numbers of 1 or 2 of them.
Welcome to BT Answer 157. Sorry, this mailbox is full.
That's those 2 tried. Hello, can I speak to Barbara, please?
Yes, she's speaking.
Hi, Barbara. I sent you a letter and DVD in the post about a week ago about the events in 2010.
Yes.
With the unfortunate shootings.
Yes.
Are you okay to answer a question or 2?
Well, we didn't really see anything, to be honest with you. Welcome to BT Answer 1571. To BT Answer 1571.
Hello, can I speak to Leslie, please?
Sorry?
Can I speak to Leslie?
Leslie isn't here. Who's speaking, please?
My name's Richard Hall.
Yeah.
Any idea what time she'll be back?
Who are you, Richard Hoyle? I'm sorry, you've got the wrong number.
Oh, wrong number. Sorry about that.
Please leave a message after the tone.
All we need is a witness after the Michael Pike shooting to see if we've got Derrick Bird or we've got this possible imposter. It's amazing the different responses you get. Here's a passing place here. That woman who lived in this great big house, really nice. She was sort of very friendly. She came out into the garden. She says, "Oh, you're investigating that, right? Well, I know 2 people who witnessed that. There's the chap that you're talking about, and there's also a woman who lives up the road there as well." I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, I'll go and speak to this chap first." Went to him, he wasn't in. Came back, knocked on the door, and I was expecting the same woman to answer the door, but a guy answers the door, and he's all just telling me to go away. It's a fairly straightforward thing I'm trying to establish. What was the description of the gunman? That's it. I'm driving along in this vehicle here. So I pull up, someone's by the side of the road. I ask them to come over for the time, and then I shoot them in the head, and they're dead. And I drive off. Who's going to see me do it? Who's going to see my face? No one. Now, once or twice he is alleged to have got out of his vehicle to shoot people. But even then, until you've heard the gunshot, you're not alerted to it. And by the time you fired the gun, it's over, and the perpetrator is on his way. So we've got no CCTV footage of Derrick Bird with a gun in his hand, walking down the street or shooting anyone. Nothing. We've got a handful of witnesses, a handful, who claim to have seen Derrick Bird. And then at Cumbria, we've got a witness who's saying it's a man in his 20s with short dark hair. We need more witnesses. My feeling is that at least some of it was done by Derrick Bird, and he's been taken out. Oh, he's a motorbike. He's been taken out by an operative, murdered. The operative's driven the car into the woods, dumped his body